many fans you are in this shit.
Hello and welcome back to coverage of the PDGA Euro Tour. We are excited to be bringing you Round 1 Back 9 FPO feature card coverage of the Konopiście Open on an iconic course. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, FPO superstar Rachel Turton.
That's very kind of you to say, Connor. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be back on the mic here for the back 9. We have Christy Unt leading on 1 under after the front 9, with a couple of players tied for second, myself and Sophie Bjorlicke, and then closely following behind a few players tied for 4th, Annelie Tõugjas-Männiste, Jenny Larson, Kaidi Allsalu, and then, a couple more.
We saw some fireworks on the front 9. Beautiful spectator there of the Franz Ferdinand disc golf course. You can hear them all throughout. In fact, even sometimes celebrating certain putts made.
Just another beautiful thing about the Konopiště course.
Everything in order as we move to hole 10. A 92-meter par 3 double mando between these two trees. The fairway slopes softly downhill as well as left to right, and really encourages, I think, more of a stable Anheuser backhand than the forehand, although you have many options and both are possible to get you the birdie.
Yeah, again, lots of different options for this hole. This played is one of the easiest holes for the day, with just playing just under par over average. I'll take to the forehand route, just aiming for that left-hand mando tree, and catch a little bit of lettuce on the way, leave myself just in circle 2.
We'll see Nikola also opt for that forehand, going a little bit more Anheuser in the release, but a very overstable looking disc finds those branches as well. Doesn't fight through as well as Rachel's shot. Still will be left with some distance. Kaidi here playing the height as well.
Some brutal smackdowns from that tree, really. Kaidi just leaves herself landing under the tree on the right-hand side. Annelie with the nice Anheuser forehand, close to that first tree on the left, and just kicks down a little bit just outside the circle as well. Kaidi with the stretch out, using her long legs, and throws a lovely understable shot right into the bullseye. It's perfect.
Great core strength and composure there to maintain her balance and put out a fantastic upshot. We see Nikola there giving it a soft bid, potentially a half bid to keep it safe. And we see Rachel from deep now, giving it that circle to chance. Comes up just a little bit low out of the hand. You'll be left with about 6-7 meters.
Yeah, just a really soft bid. It didn't come out of my hand very nicely. But Annelie's comes out of her hand perfectly. She cans the putt from about 12 meters out. That's a great way to start the back 9.
So we see her breathe a sigh of relief, finding another birdie that sets her back to even. A strong score here.
Yeah, thanking the basket with that little pat. Myself just with the par. That's, reasonably easy, just outside bullseye. Nikola slightly closer. You still have to take the time even on the short putts, you know. She has a great routine and puts it in very confidently. It's nice.
Especially playing in the mornings, you do have some dew on the grass. Every disc comes out just a little bit wet if you're playing earlier or later in the day. So we see Kaidi take the stress-free 3, 1 birdie and 3 pars.
Yeah, she had a really nice scramble from behind that tree. Great shot.
We move on to hole 11, sitting at par 5, 261 meters. Another hole with a very generous fairway, but a ton of distance required. You want your first shot to come straight before these large 2 trees, and then battle through the gap into this wide open field, and then hopefully your third shot, if you are successful around this enormous guardian, you can try to go underneath, you can try to blast through. If you have the forehand, you can swing one around wide as the drone flies, but incredibly well protected basket, tucked right away. This is a mean guardian. Hello, random guy.
A slightly generous par 5 at only just over 260 meters. Let's see if our women can attack it. Annelie lining up the backhand. Yeah, she's a really powerful thrower. She's going to be throwing that slightly understable driver, trying to get it to flip up, but not quite this time. She's going to leave herself on the left-hand side, just before the big purple tree.
You see Rachel now. What disc are you throwing off the tee here?
This is a D1, slightly beaten, so it will flip up nicely, and it does. Gets quite a long way down the fairway, but just has that skip at the end that will just leave me just under the purple tree.
A really common place to land. A lot of the overstable drivers thrown filter towards there, but you can't really go with too much understability either, as we see Nikola potentially either an early release or hoping to flip it over more. Was very low to the ground, will still be left with quite some distance. Kaidi now, shaping a nice turnover backhand. This is gliding really beautifully in the center of the fairway, and if she can control the skip, and she does, she is positioned in a prime landing zone.
Yeah, another player with lots of power on the backhand. Yeah, fantastic release, and will leave her in a great position. Nikola with the second drive now. Just trying to gain as much distance down the fairway as she possibly can, hopefully leaving herself in a great shot for her next shot.
We see Annelie here out in the open just before the first of the purple trees. She now sends her drive towards the second. This is getting tons of distance as it continues to glide, pushes all the way, completes the full flight. That is a really significant progress down the fairway.
Yeah, still has that big tree to contend with for the next shot, but a fantastic lot of distance to bite off. I struggle with the tree a little bit, have no run up and throw a nice out, but it's not as far down the fairway as I would like it to be.
But still very accurate given the awkward stance and poor footing. We see Kaidi now trying to play underneath the tree. She is blasting this driver full speed ahead. As she slides just underneath, she will have a low ceiling approach to contend with, just short of making it all the way to the green.
They do say that trees are 99% air, right? So I think it's quite a good shot to just aim for the tree and see what happens. Nikola with the highs a forehand, tries to just push it around the tree, but just catches the last couple of branches and will leave herself underneath.
Unfortunately, my experience with trees might dispute that fact, but I appreciate the statistic. As we see the forehand approach from you here, Rachel, a nice width and a good pace gets it pin high, not all the way around to the green, but it is very difficult to get that far right. So we see Annelie with her tactic, hitting the pole, sits it down.
Annelie perfectly proved my theory here. Slicing it through the tree. Kaidi just with the underneath. They both land in the bullseye for a nice easy tap in. Nikola now from underneath the tree too, a slightly more difficult shot, but also leaves it in the bullseye. Perfect. I'll have the longer, more difficult putt from just inside the circle. And make it. Yeah, I was very happy with that putt. A nice birdie.
An amazing birdie. Definitely a really difficult one to find there, but with 3 solid throws and a well put together putt at the end. Very nice completion here to hole 11, as we see Kaidi also finding the birdie for her short putt there. Battled all the way up on the second. So we see Annelie also find the birdie and Nikola the par. Well done. Hole 11, 3 under for the card.
Yeah, it was a great hole for us. To have 2 tap-in birdies, I think, is fantastic on this course. It is a very long one, but like I say, that was quite generous for a par 5.
And this is one where you do not so often find the tap-in birdies. Hole 12 is a par 3 at 84 meters over this OB water carry the entire way. These murky waters are unforgiving and likely going to steal a disc if you find any branches along the way. You want a straight flight that crashes the hillside, even skipping up a little bit towards this basket where you'll try to make your birdie putt. Scary hole, but not particularly technically difficult.
That's true, yeah, about 84 meters. With the hill behind the basket is quite a nice one to run at, which is good. Annelie with the powerful backhand. Perfectly over the water. Yeah, no trouble at all. Leaves herself just outside the bullseye. A great shot. I'm also going with the backhand. A straight mid-range again, the strider. Just trying to get it to flip up a little bit. And it just highs us out. But yeah, we'll be just outside the bullseye too.
2 great shots there. Well positioned for birdie. We'll see Kaidi now getting a hyzer release, looking to turn this one over a little bit more. She hits that first guardian and dropping down. It is about 50-50 if you are safe, and unfortunately she finds OB. We see here Nikola also underturning her shot, fading towards those same trees, but actually going on the inside left. Although it will leave her with a longer look, she is safe and on the island.
Yeah, looking to card her first birdie. So close. It was a great run, just hits the top of the band. But yeah, fantastic effort at the putt. Kaidi now from circle 2. Oh, a great run again, just short. But yeah, it gives it a really good run for the par, and we'll have a short comebacker for the bogey. Myself tapping in the birdie, and let's see how Annelie gets on from slightly closer.
Also a very solid putt there from her. As we're seeing the birdies put together now, I'd say the back 9 slightly more friendly than the front 9, as we've seen Annelie put 3 together in a row. Quite impressive, and 2 for you, Rachel.
Yeah, she's on a roll. It's fantastic to watch, and it was lovely to be on a card with her. Kaidi tapping in the bogey, and Nikola tapping in with the par.
Do you know how this hole averaged, out of curiosity? Tricky hole 12, I think. While not the hardest, also not the easiest.
Only just over par, yeah. One of the easiest holes. It's not too bad. I feel like if you make it over the pond, you have a pretty good look at running for the birdie. But yeah, tricky first shot.
Very fair there. As we move on to hole 13, a 108-meter par 3 sloping left to right as well as softly downhill. Another hole that allows you a variety of shots, the turnover backhand or the big power forehand being favored by a lot of players. And of course, if the hole is easy, the basket in Konopište is elevated. So adding that extra element of difficulty and stress on the green, you want to get as close as possible.
Ideally you do. Let's see what Annelie can do. She just turns over the forehand a little bit and will leave herself short, but in the fairway. I'm choosing to go with the hyzer flip backhand. And it did hyzer flip and kept on flipping and didn't really come back. So I'll leave myself in the trees with a lookout, hopefully.
I think one positive of these elevated baskets is that if you're not in the circle, it's very easy to simply lay up and take your 3 stress-free. As we see Nikola there bleeding out a little bit left, but still absolutely fine in the open, will be unobstructed, and I think a short and simple upshot. Kaidi here also playing the hyzer flip, gets a nice soft turn out of it, but fading a touch too soon. Also going out the left towards Nikola's shot, but a little bit further in distance.
Let's see Annelie now, lining up the approach, throws the forehand quite wide, but trusts her disc very well, and absolutely parks it. That's a fantastic shot. Myself now just in the bushes with quite a lot of nettles down by my feet, but yeah, that was an easy choice, like you say, just to lay up for the tap and par.
So you see Nikola here putting downhill, likely the same result. Actually hits the koozie for good measure, slows her disc down for the tap in. We see Kaidi now giving this a little bit of thought. And she cashes the birdie, an incredible putt. Ignore everything I said about laying up. Kaidi is here to play as she finds the 2 from deep.
Another fantastic circle 2 putt for Kaidi there. Just cans it. Yeah, looking so confident in her putt. That's really good to see. Myself just from outside the bullseye. Put it in for the par.
And what do you putt with, Rachel?
PA3s. I think a lot of Prodigy players would say exactly the same thing. But yeah, they're fantastic discs, so reliable. Annelie with the tap in par as well. And Nikola to round out the card with another par. So Kaidi takes the sole birdie with a fantastic putt.
We move on to hole 14, a 208-meter par 4 with a straight shot off the tee. You want to battle between these 2 trees as best as possible, looking at the long straight shot. If you can fade left around this corner, it's a bonus, although it requires a good amount of touch and distance. You then continue to battle up the fairway, going uphill on a left to right sloping fairway now. You want to throw a big power drive towards the green, get as far as you can, and hopefully make your putt.
Yeah, the FPO tee pad is shorter than the MPO tee pad, and I think that leaves this hole as being nice and attackable for the women. Let's see how we do.
Kaidi now on the box after an amazing putt on 13. She's getting this one up to flat and even turning it over, as she will find those right side trees just missing the gap that is required for the open look. She will sit down underneath and be obstructed.
Yeah, Kaidi with the slightly more understable driver, trying to get a lot of distance, but just turns it over a little. Annelie also with the slightly understable driver, also turns it over slightly more, and is into the same bunch of trees that Kaidi caught herself in. I tried to learn from their mistakes a little bit and threw slightly more overstable, and didn't get any flip up, caught the trees on the left, but was fortunate to pop out.
And we had really nice conditions here on day one. Just a slight breeze, very mild weather, about 20 degrees, on and off rains, although they were quite mild. Really nice scoring conditions. As we see Nikola there fading out just at the nick of time. Final chance there to be unobstructed. She looks to have maybe an obstructed walk-up, but an unobstructed throw. We see you now here, Rachel, left with quite some distance. You blast a big hyzer up the hill, even flipping the catch cam there. And as you pan out, how far are you left with?
That left me probably about 30 meters out. So good recovery from where I was, quite short off the tee. Annelie with the stretch out backhand and leaves herself in the middle of the fairway. Kaidi with a definitely more obstructed line. She throws an understable fairway and gets herself nicely up the hill. A really great recovery, a great out. Nikola from the right hand side of the fairway, throwing a lovely turnover shot, biting off as much distance as she can. She'll leave herself, about 30-40 meters out as well.
We see Annelie here from the pitch out from the rough, now going for her trusty tactic, swinging that wide hyzer in. She crashes the green and settles in bullseye. Just a great approach, really at no risk at any point in the flight.
Fantastic approach. Both these ladies know the disc extremely well. That overstability, just relying on the going up the hill. Kaidi leaves herself a little bit longer, but still inside the circle. I'm trying to run the putt, but it is quite a long way. I leave myself inside the bullseye.
As you mentioned, still outside circle 2 going uphill. As we see Nikola give it a chance, and actually looks like it had the distance, just barely snuck by the chains. She's been very confident from those deep putts, has a lot of power. And speaking of confident putts, Kaidi just on fire on the green, securing her par.
Another fantastic putt there from Kaidi. Annelie just taps in her par as well. A fantastic score after both being under the trees to get par and recover. That's wonderful. I'll also tap in for the par, and Nikola will also be inside the bullseye. Looking for a par frame here on hole 14. I think probably the most common result. It's a tough one to birdie, but also kind of tough to bogey. Agreed, yeah. Not too much danger, really. Kaidi and Annelie did a fantastic job of getting themselves out of trouble. We move on. Hole 15, a 228-meter par 4, sloping softly right to left as well as significantly downhill. You want effectively 2 straight shots, although it looks like the fairway bends to the left. Anything that is straight flying off the tee with a soft fade will position you nicely to attack the green from about 100 to 120 meters going down. It does require some good touch though, as you'll need to rely on something that will end straight flying, not fade too much going down the hill. Fairways of Konopiště are never flat, are they? An exciting hole, quite a long one again. Let's see if we can attack. Kaidi takes to the box, throwing that slightly understable driver, makes the gap absolutely perfectly, a little turned over, but has a fade out at the end. Yeah, that's a great shot, middle of the fairway and a long way down there. Full flight to ensure she gets the distance. We see Annelie now leaning on that trusty DD1. She gets this turned over as well, battling past those final branches. There you go, getting a full flight and a fade towards the left side. She'll have a more straight look than Kaidi, who will be on that soft Anheuser backhand or hyzer forehand. We see you here, Rachel, flipping one up to flat, giving it a good height as you go a little bit left side, but looking to be well clear of the trees. Yeah, not quite flat enough, that one. Fades out a little bit early to the left, but leaves me in a reasonable position. Nikola with the forehand. She has a lot of power with that forehand, but it just hyzers out a little bit early, and we'll leave her on the right-hand side of the fairway. Nikola again with that trusty forehand, She has quite a nice angle to be able to attack the basket here, but just comes out a little bit early, a little high, and will hyzer out into the trees on the right.
As Nikola continuing to scramble a little bit, unable to find her first birdie of the back nine, but also bogey-free. We see Kaidi there, pinched off, needing to shape something around the trees, catches some branches, and gets a cut roll back. I think a simple jump putt approach for her from that lie, got enough distance to make it an easy par. We see Annelie here hunting the birdie on 15, getting that flex down the fairway, cameraman in danger, and she makes her way to just outside the circle. That's within her putting range.
It is within Annelie's putting range. I hope that she can attack. Myself just throwing from the left-hand side of the fairway. Didn't have any run-up, unfortunately. The footing was a bit poor, and I just caught the last sponsorship flags just there.
As we see Nikola battling her way down the fairway, got enough distance to leave Kaidi with the next shot, who's coming up a little bit short. That will definitely be a tester, although her putter is on fire. I think she'll be confident running that one. Nikola continuing, playing the forehand line. Bleeds a little bit right side, but she is finally there up on the green, and she'll look to close out on hole 15. We see you here, Rachel, throwing the soft hyzer forehand as well to just a little bit shorter than I think a comfortable range.
Yeah, agreed. I prefer the forehand on that shot with the slope going down the hill. And Annelie catches another amazing putt. Fantastic. Running it in and, yeah, tapping that basket, saying thank you. Yeah, brilliant putt. Kaidi unfortunately just leaks left-hand side of the basket. Chains just let that go. And I get my par. Nikola also looking to get that par, which she does. Oh, bogey. Oh, unfortunate. Yeah, okay, the two forehands, unlucky.
Given the first one hyzering out a little bit into the trees, she got cut off on the distance, requiring a pitch out, and then fought her way down the fairway. I think only one errant shot for her there, resulting in the bogey, and for Kaidi as well. She'll be taking the 5 here. Annelie looking to be setting quite a strong pace now. As we move towards the final holes, we see here hole 16. A par 5 at 257 meters. You have a series of small gaps to hit, this being the largest one. As the drone flies, you break out into an open fairway, sloping of course left to right, as well as more trees to the left and the right of the fairway, but if you can keep it in the middle, it's quite wide and quite generous. Once you break out, you can then see that you have a low ceiling to contend with. As you fight towards the basket, you want to match the slope of the hill as best as possible, battle underneath these branches, and then fight your way up to the green. I think another one where par is a fine score.
Another very long, very challenging hole, but a nice open fairway and leaves you with a lot of different shot shaping options. Annelie now on the tee. With the forehand, her forehand has been looking great the whole round. She perfectly gets it through the gap, and it just fades out a little bit to the right-hand side, leaving her in a really good position.
An ideal shape there to battle through the gap. We see, Rachel, you're opting for something a little bit more understable on the backhand line, but fights through really nicely. What disc was that?
That was an F5 turnover backhand. It's definitely not my preferred shot, but it allowed me to get a little bit further down the fairway than my forehand might. Kaidi also with the turnover backhand, but just doesn't quite turn enough, hits that tree on the right and kicks down.
Nikola now on the tee, going out left with a significant hyzer angle, but fights back. Unclear if she hit something or not. May have just been the natural turn of the flight, but she's now well positioned as she blasts this one up the fairway, getting as much distance as possible. She is right out there in the open.
Yeah, that second shot, we're just trying to cut off as much distance as we can to make the approach easier into the basket. Kaidi with her understable driver gets a really long rip on that one. That's a fantastic position to be in. She's in the middle of the fairway, looking down towards the basket, but still probably maybe 100 meters away.
Anywhere near or past that big tree on the fairway that, Rachel, your disc actually just flew past is a good place to be to then attack the green, as it looks like you hopefully had a full flight as well. Annelie now shaping the Anheuser release with a pretty stable to overstable disc. Finds a slight touch of fade towards the end of the flight, but still very nice position.
Nikola now with a shot down the fairway. Very low branches makes this shot a really difficult one to take on. If you're too high, you hit the branches. If you're too low, you catch the ground, which Nikola did. But still middle of the fairway, and we'll leave her with a good next shot. Kaidi also looking to see whether she can get it underneath them branches, but just a slight early release, maybe some slip on the footing. Like I say, the ground was quite wet this morning from the dew, and yeah, she'll just be out on the left-hand side.
Annelie now from a good position, still quite some distance to bite off. Under the branches, she looks to be catching the final skip and flare. One of the faster greens, often coming in at an angle. A lot of discs tend to funnel towards that if you can catch an edge. So you see, Rachel, you are all the way down there after 2 shots, and your third fighting up into the circle. A nice game plan, well executed.
Thank you. Yeah, I was quite happy with attacking this hole, really. A lovely hyzer skip here from Nikola, getting herself into the circle. If you're on that left-hand side of the fairway, then yeah, the hyzer skip is a really nice attack plan. Kaidi with the forehand out. Again, some trees to contend with, so has to go quite low, but gets herself up into the circle.
Annelie with a solid putt there to secure another birdie, putting her round score to 4 under. You can look at that green on the back 9. She is just lighting it up. And Nikola there making sure to put that one in for her par. Rachel, we see you here for birdie. Almost sneaks out on the right side, but you keep it in. That is another great putt.
In is in. Doesn't matter how you get there, in is in. Kaidi with the great par putt as well to finish up the hole.
We have 2 left here on this beautiful Konopiště layout. You see here hole 17. Par 4. It says 125, but you can ignore that because this is so severely uphill. It plays, I think, much nearer to almost 200. This is a long straight fairway with OB lining the left side the entire way. A lot of backhands that if they're not understable or turned over enough will fade towards. You have this final large guardian tree to fight around and make your way up to this open but slanted green. This green is one of the most dangerous for rollaways. If you don't find the heart of the chains, any other metal can spell your doom.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we're playing from a shortened FPO tee pad here as well. It's a long way uphill. Annelie with the lovely turned over backhand gets a lot of distance up that hill. A really nice shot.
We see you here, Rachel. Are you leaning on something more understable or trying to get an Anheuser release? Or maybe both?
A slightly unstable disc, yeah. I have 4 D1s in my bag of multiple different stabilities, really, and this is the most understable, trying to bite off as much distance up that hill as possible. Kaidi also with the slightly understable disc, just trying to hyzer flip it, which she does perfectly. Lots of distance up that hill, and a reliable fade as well, which will leave her in a good position for the next shot.
Nikola, maybe not one of the furthest throwers on this card, but still has a good amount of touch, although this one has snuck away from her on the early release. That is the most common mistake on this hole. As we see, she's left with still a huge distance fighting up the hill around this last guardian. She just catches those branches and drops down. She'll have a long uphill look from about Circle 2's edge to try and save par.
Annelie with the really powerful forehand up that hill, just trying to get up as much as possible, and she does a really good job of it, leaving herself just outside of C1. Or maybe it's inside. We'll see when we get there. I have a very similar look to Annelie. Also going with the forehand up the hill, a slightly understable disc. And yeah, managed to park it, so happy with that shot.
No doubt, as that will be putting you to 4 under for the round. A great performance. We see Kaidi here also playing the forehand approach, but a little bit low there, not quite giving it the height to battle all the way up. Nikola with a big jump putt. We have seen her go for those in the past. She has a ton of power on the putting stroke. And we see Kaidi now, what she's left with uphill, Circle 2, just over the top. She gave it the height.
She did. Her putt has been brilliant today. Yeah, she's been fantastically executing from C2. Another great putt from Annelie there. Whoa, look at that scorecard. That's a fantastic back 9 for her. Kaidi just tapping in with the par. Nikola inside the bullseye now. Cards the bogey, yeah, an unfortunate OB on the first drive, but otherwise played the hole very well.
4 throws with the penalty stroke. Rachel, you take the stress-free tap-in birdie. Very nicely done. Shades on, you're here for business.
Yeah, I didn't take the glasses off for that one. I felt that was close enough that I didn't have to pay too much attention to it.
And the final hole here of the layout, hole 18. A 136-meter par 3 throwing from an elevated tee. This fairway is downhill the entire way. You want to throw something that is straight flying until the very end, try to hit the earth just before the basket and get your slide on up. While an attackable birdie requires a little bit more touch than I'd say the drone flight looks. It's not so easy to maintain that straight flight going downhill at this distance.
Yeah, I agree. An extremely downhill hole. It plays a lot shorter than 136 meters. Annelie now going with something slightly understable. Gets a great rip on it. This will be a really good distance. Just fades out a little left near the end, but yeah, is a really long way down the fairway, and yeah, we'll leave with her with a look from C2.
We see you here, Rachel, giving it a little bit too much turn. This will fight towards the right side and does get shut down, leaving you a bit of distance towards the green, but still very manageable as it looks like you've made it about halfway down the fairway. We will see Kaidi now going lower left side with more understability, but catches a lot of turn. Oftentimes that nose down disc going downhill will act more understable than it may on flat ground. And we see Nikola now getting this one up to flat. Really nice delayed slow turn there, getting it all the way, just a touch of fade at the end, and that will give her a chance to try and find a birdie here on the back nine.
An absolutely fantastic shot from Nikola. Out of the hand, I thought it was going to be way to the left, way hyzer, but she knows her disc very well and trusted it, and it was a fantastic shot. I approach and lead myself into the circle. Kaidi now with a difficult downhill run, really, but she does it extremely well. And yeah, parks it inside the bullseye. Fantastic.
Nikola here with a chance. She gives it a bit just off the cage. It is so close, as she has shown the willingness from the long distance putts, but unable to translate them today here. Annelie as well, known to be a strong putter, going just out the right side. And we see you here, Rachel, also just a little bit low.
Just a bit low, yeah. Nikola was really unfortunate with that last one. She gave it everything and just a little short, and myself caging it too. Annelie taps in her par. Kaidi also with the tap in par, and then myself just tapping in that bogey to finish.
Still a very nice round at 3 under for yourself, Rachel. Battling, I'm sure, still at the very top as we close out our round 1 action for the FPO field. We see the standings. Annelie, your solo leader, at 5 under par, scorching pace. Tied in second, 3 players, Sophie Björlicke, Christy Und, and yourself, Rachel. Great performance to get you on the lead card for round 2.
Yeah, quite tight at the top. Annelie has a fantastic 2-shot lead over the next 3 players. Let's see how it goes in the next round.
Thank you for joining us and for your support. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all the good stuff. And let us know if you liked having an FPO player here on the mic. Rachel, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Let me know in the comments whether you liked it and whether you want to see